morning. First of all, I would like to thank INCIBE for the opportunity of to participate in ENISE. I hope this is interesting for you. Thank you to the organizers for their patience and everything they have helped us with before and during the event, and I think they do a great job. And of course, thank you all for attending and for being here early in the morning. The second day already, I know this is a hard time for everyone, especially after last night, so thank you very much for being here. I'm very excited to kick off the day with my presentation because I'm going to present the next panel, which is going to be very interesting indeed. And my presentation is also connected somehow to that panel. So I have changed the approach of my presentation with regard to what I had in mind when INCIBE asked us to be here. And so I've been, let's say, bold enough to change the title, and I've called it the Gold Rush. And so I prefer to use the approach of how capturing or seizing the opportunities in the market of cybersecurity. And so what am I supposed to talk about? You know, we carry out a great deal of research at Gartner. We have a great insight on where the market's going, what the trends are. And so we're experts in identifying potential niches in cybersecurity where opportunities may come up in the next years. I'm going to use this approach, and I will go into further detail as I move forward. I'm going to use the comparison with the gold rush in the 1800s in the United States, where a lot of entrepreneurs, because that's what they were, moved to California to go find gold. And I'm going to complement this or complete my story with the story of Samuel Brannan. He is said to be the one that really made a great deal of money during the gold rush. He was able to anticipate what was going to happen as the first little pieces of gold were being found in the early times of the gold rush. And so he was smart enough to buy a large land and then resell them at a higher price. He was the first millionaire of the gold rush. And so I'm going to change my approach a little bit and not just try to anticipate what market niches we should focus on, but also what are the tools that you need to seize those opportunities that are indeed out there. And there are many of them. And so the first question is, what are the key tools to make it in the market and to be successful in cybersecurity? There are many of them, but I'm going to focus on two. Talent is one, that's a hot topic. It always comes up in this industry. But I'm going to use some additional viewpoints on top of what's been said so far when it comes to talent in cybersecurity. And the second great tool or resource that, in my opinion, is needed to seize all of those opportunities is funding as a key lever to grow. In order to seize the opportunity, we believe that growing in size is a key lever to really be entitled to play some of the games that are going on in global cybersecurity. Let's start with talent. Those who know me well know that I'm not a person that likes to talk a lot. But I thought this was important. I know this is a well-trodden topic, a well-trodden path, but people are the weak link in the chain of cybersecurity. But on top of this, I would say that people are the weakest link in the development of business models in cybersecurity. We're witnessing a war for talent, if you will. And so let's take a look at the background. This is a study conducted by Capgemini a couple of years ago, and it's quite a good one. It compares supply and demand in several subsectors of ITC, and the analysis showed that cybersecurity was the market with the greatest or widest gap between supply and demand. So this is the starting point. We'll take a look at this later. I will share a thought with you later on. In cybersecurity, we're not only competing against our own peers or the rest of the players in the industry, but we're also competing against other sub-segments within information and communication technologies, which are also potential employers for workers. So we need to provide value in order to attract workers, to attract talent, and then we will fight against each other in order to appeal to that talent. A great deal of work is being done in many fields, both private and public, in order to generate funnel of future cybersecurity professionals. But my viewpoint here that I want to share with you is that, let's say, all of this has a mid-long-term approach, but our needs are short-term needs. So one of my proposals is, let's not just wait until all of these initiatives provide a return on investment, and let's think about other options, other alternatives in the meanwhile, which is, for example, focalizing or localizing a talent. As you see, the gap is not going to stop increasing, and so we need to work on it. From a local viewpoint, I believe that Spain is witnessing a rather paradoxical scenario. The market is always growing, and my personal perception, and this is not Gartner's perception, but my own opinion, is that there's a lot of discomfort or unsatisfaction in many areas. Customers say that they find it difficult to cover certain roles, certain vacancies, because their service suppliers are not offering an adequate level for the service, because the service providers also have lack of talent in turn. And what I'm told by suppliers is that for the rates that are paid currently in the market, it becomes very difficult to retain talent and to offer skills that are adequately trained. And when we talk to professionals, they tell us that their qualification, stress, working load, responsibilities, etc. are not acknowledged. So it's a paradox that such a growing and a profitable market has a general feeling of unsatisfaction. And there's another player, which is the industry itself, which in the middle of all of this breeding ground says that automation is going to solve all our problems, as if we didn't need any people to reach automation and implement all of those projects and technologies. Let's take a look at what the motivations are for professionals to join the cybersecurity market. Once again, I'm quoting a Capgemini study. which says that the first motivation for professionals to join an organization or a market or an industry is salary. Sometimes we are not comfortable talking about money, but we need to put this on the table and work on this issue. Now, if you come to think about what makes professionals leave an organization or the industry of cybersecurity, the main ground that they adduced was the lack of a long-term professional career, professional path. And so we need to start reflecting upon to what extent our human resources in our organizations live up to their expectations, the expectations of professionals in our industry. Let's talk about salary. This is a recent study by Gartner, in which we've analyzed the average salaries in cybersecurity. I read this piece of news last week, which was saying that the salary in cybersecurity was 45,000 euros a year, and they said this was a lot of money, but if you take a look at the screen, it's not really. These are the salaries that our study has shown. And we need these salaries to be competitive in the global market, but it's also a threat. Some professions, some roles in cybersecurity are very easy to delocalize. Many professionals in Spain may be working for foreign companies which are able to pay these salaries. So this is also a threat to our organizations and to our businesses. And I will give you some clues later on how to work on this. Now, if we take a look at professional careers, 62% of cybersecurity professionals state that admit that they don't have a clear career path. And so, are we really doing everything we can in this battle for talent? Well, it seems that 62% of organizations are not doing everything they can. What's happening in the world? Automation is coming, machine learning is coming, and there's this mantra which is to automate working processes as much as possible. This study by Gartner identifies the most demanded roles, and the highlighted ones, the ones in gray, are the ones that are more susceptible of being automated in the coming years. We need to bear this in mind because I see that there's a lot of training opportunities, training offer or supply in the market, but they don't really coincide or correspond with the skills that are needed in the private industry. I think you cannot really see the ones that are highlighted in gray. Analysts, pen testers, and threat analysts are the three roles that will be most demanded or will be more susceptible to be automated. However, there are other roles, for example, risk analysts, for which there will be great demand in the future. And we will see in a while how the role of women in cybersecurity will be quite relevant in the future. We cannot just forget about 50% of the labor market in our industry. And as you can see, this is a rather painful figures to take a look at. 82% of women don't think or want to work in the world of cybersecurity. And what are the reasons of this? Maybe the image that the industry has. People think about hackers, about low or bad quality of life, with a bad balance between private and professional lives. And we need to fight against this. There are many different roles in cybersecurity at the moment, but on top of this, many new roles will appear in the next years, in which we believe that capacities and skills of women will provide something different as compared to what men can provide. Here are the different roles. I'm not going to say who would do what better, but you can all think for yourselves about this, and you will see that women have a great contribution to make. So the first message, the first key message will be that talent management must be a key capacity to develop business models in cybersecurity, and it calls for specific strategies, at least for the following 3 years. And considering that many initiatives are being launched to create a professional basis of professional workforce, but however, I don't think that the existing gap and the growing gap in the market will be covered. And so we need to think about importing or using professionals from other subsectors in the ICT market. But in order to do this, we need to be aware of where our competitive advantages are. As a country, Spain is an attractive country for foreign talent. But bringing foreign talent from abroad doesn't mean that we're going to take all of that talent for our own industry. But there are other subsegments, other professions and roles that are also attractive, which may indeed steal that talent from us. We need to work on improving salaries because the market is what it is. And in order to do that, I am strongly convinced that we have to create a national cybersecurity market first, where salaries and benefits are really given the importance they need, because it's expensive to train in cybersecurity, and we as service providers need to create an attractive and appealing national ecosystem for those professionals. So, in addition to having a strategy, our organizations need to have the necessary resources allocated to attracting those professionals and that talent, because otherwise we will have a bottleneck in our business model. And in order to achieve all of this, the next key tool, the next key element is funding as a lever to grow in size. Why is it important to grow in size? Here are 5 reasons to do it. It increases productivity, it improves funding of all kinds, it provides larger innovation capacity, it attracts talent, as we said before, and it provides better access into global markets. So what I want you to take away from my presentation is that we need to be fast. Perhaps we need organic growth plans. If we're not aggressive enough, we will not capture all of the opportunities present in the market. Here's an overview of global cybersecurity. The size of the bubbles is the size of the market subsegments, and then you have the growth figures that we're expecting for each of those segments. Security services is the larger bubble, and thus the larger market. And I believe that this is the one that presents a greater opportunity. And I think as a national cybersecurity industry, we can find a great deal of opportunities here. And during the panel, we will listen to some people who have been successful in the global market in security services. But here's the picture, and you can decide on which bubble, on which market you want to focus, but all of them present opportunities. Why did I say that I don't think a national industry has many opportunities in terms of technologies and products. Well, here's a summary of the cool vendors that we've launched at Gartner this year. And for these four categories for which we've launched a cool vendor, identity management, privacy management, Fed phrasing technologies, and IT, OT interaction area. Well, we see that our research is the monopoly belongs to either Israel or the United States. And so we have to think about this as a country, but also on a European level, and see how we can introduce new products into the market that are successful. I've analyzed solutions in the US and Israel many times already, and when you dip into it, you see that they don't have a great deal of innovation, but they're very capable to place products in the market very fast with this halo of innovation that we don't have. We're good at wine and olive oil, but we're not able to have that halo in the market when it comes to cybersecurity products. This is the expectation of Gartner for each of the regions in the coming years. And I can tell you that we've tended to focus on Latin America historically. But according to our study, it's one of the regions that will grow the less in the following years. So our approach, our suggestion is to focus on markets that have not traditionally been the fastest growing. I know this may seem strange, but we see that we could be able to address those markets in a competitive manner because we have talent, we have good services. So let's step out of our comfort zone, out of our territorial borders, and step into those markets because we can be competitive indeed. As an overview, all subsegments in cybersecurity are growing, so there are opportunities in almost every of them. All of them will be growing at quite high levels, at a quite fast pace. So it's not so much about where we focus our efforts on, but how we're able to capture opportunities. And now again, focusing on how to approach national market and the opportunities it presents. This is some data on where we're heading at the moment, both globally and nationally. According to a recent study, there is approximately $200 billion available in private equity to be invested in technology. And in Spain, we've become almost social leaders in real estate, and we are one of the countries, we're the second country with the highest amount of the so-called SOCIMIs enterprises since they were created a few years ago. And so we need to have a clear focus on attracting talent and training investors and attract investment, both national and international investment, because this will make our lives easier. Now, I have the impression that people who create or put up a business, a startup, are very much focused on attracting investment and funding, and it's in the DNA of a startup. But for companies with a turnover between 10 to 80 million euros, we don't think about investment that much. And investment is going to be a key element to grow in the market. So we need to focus on startup investment, yes, but after we reach a certain level of turnover, we should not forget about capturing investment to grow and to grow fast. So then again, to finish with the topic of funding, my key message is that all subsegments in cybersecurity are continued to grow in the following years. We believe that the sector of services may be the easiest to address or to tackle, but we'll hear a bit more on this later during the panel. If we think in geographic terms, perhaps we should address markets that are less known or typical for Spanish businesses. But in order to tackle those markets, we need sales channels, we need multilingual professionals, we need to be present in those regions, etc. So in order to develop capacities, we believe that size is a key point, and in order to reach sufficient size, we need to explore all investment possibilities or funding and be creative. So the message here is the market is growing. Yes, there's a great deal of opportunity, but let's focus on how we're going to address markets, foreign markets. So to finish with, in order to win, in order to make money in the gold rush of cybersecurity, we should think if we really have the adequate tools to extract and to mine that gold, those opportunities. Thank you very much.